45 minutes from the craggy cliffs of northern California's Lost Coast, through a few cool redwood groves, lies Humboldt County, the heart of America's cannabis country. In July 2022, Johnny Casale, the founder of craft cannabis cultivator Huckleberry Hill Farms, and his partner, Rose Moberly, put 55 pounds of grade A, sun-grown pot into a wood chipper and pulped it. Humboldt's cannabis farmers, some of whom have spent decades running from helicopters before California legalized marijuana in 2016, are now operating in a broken market. Nearly 5 years after California launched recreational marijuana sales, the price per pound has collapsed by 52%. Instead of getting rich producing a cash crop, 95% of licensed California cannabis growers operated at a loss last year. I'm Will Yakowicz, staff writer for Forbes, and I traveled around the country to speak with entrepreneurs and investors to find out exactly how America bungled the biggest no-brainer in the history of capitalism: legalizing weed, the world's most popular illicit drug. To start off, I spoke with the man who's been dubbed the father of the legal cannabis industry.
Daddy is pretty upset. Feels like it's time for a spanking.
Steve DeAngelo, who founded the Oakland-based Harborside Health Center in 2006, has been in the cannabis industry for decades.
I've grown it, I've smuggled it, I've sold it, I've made clothing out of it, I've made paper out of it. I've collectively sold, I don't know, at least $1 billion worth of cannabis in my career, probably about half of that in the legal market, and about half of that in the underground market, but who's counting? Maybe it was $2 billion.
We are joined live by Stephen DeAngelo. He is the owner here at the Harborside Health Center.
DeAngelo's Harborside was one of the country's first 6 licensed marijuana dispensaries. He was also a driving force behind Proposition 64, which legalized recreational marijuana in California in 2016, and founded the nonprofit The Last Prisoner Project.
We had a great amount of promise in this industry to create something new, to create something different, to create a way of life for thousands and thousands of people that would be better. And so far, we've really blown it. What we've seen since 2018 in the United States is the failure of cannabis legalization. My home state of California is the poster child for that. From 1996 until 2018, we had a lightly regulated system in California that supplied medical cannabis patients with very high quality, very affordable cannabis, and allowed the people who are growing that cannabis to have a decent upper middle class lifestyle. It worked well for everybody. Nobody created intergenerational wealth, but everybody prospered, everybody was taken care of. That all changed in 2018. And the day before the new regulations went into effect, my dispensary, Harborside, was supplied by 500 small independent growers. The next day, only 10 of those growers were able to get licenses from the state. And at the same time, taxes went up by 50%. So my medical cannabis patients ran out of the dispensary with sticker shock right into the arms of all of the growers who were unable to get licensed. Weed in the legacy market in most places is 1/3, 1/2, 1/4 of the price that you're paying for weed in the legal shops, and it's almost always higher quality. The only people in California who buy weed at legal cannabis dispensaries are people who are so rich that they don't care how much money they spend, tourists who don't know how to find weed anywhere else, or people who are so clueless that they don't know how to buy weed at half the price from their next door neighbors on either side of them. The legal cannabis system is not capable of competing on a price or quality basis with the legacy system, and it's not going to be able to do that until it replicates the same kind of efficient structures that the legacy market has used into the legal market. And that means reducing the scale. That means 5,000 square foot grow rooms, not million square foot grow rooms.
In the fertile valley between Malibu and Santa Barbara lies Glass House brand's largest cannabis greenhouse, spanning 1.5 million square feet inside a 5.5 million square foot facility. The company, which is based in Long Beach and owns a chain of dispensaries and an edibles manufacturer, views its mega grow as a call option on federal legalization, when companies will finally be allowed to ship pot across state lines legally.
There's really probably no better place anywhere on the planet to grow cannabis than right where we are today. We have the upsides of growing in a warehouse, great climate control, 6 harvests a year, with the upsides of growing outdoors using the sun, using the natural Southern California climate. So it's a kind of ideal hybrid of the best of outdoor and the best of indoor. That's what we get with the greenhouse.
Graham Farrar, a tech entrepreneur who was an early employee at both Software.com and Sonos, teamed up with Kyle Kazan, a former police officer turned real estate entrepreneur, to build Glass House in 2015.
Kind of that hybridization of the plant, which I enjoyed the product of, and the biology of like how the plant grew, and then the science of CO2 supplementation and timers and all that was really kind of got in my blood. I think we probably have about 400,000 plants in this entire greenhouse. So it's about 600,000 square feet of canopy and about 900,000 square feet of footprint.
The sprawling facility, which is across the street from a celery field, used to be home to Hewling's tomatoes. 3 of the 5 greenhouses are still dedicated to vegetables. The rest is for growing pot. Glass House will eventually convert the entire 160-acre property into a cannabis farm, with the goal of bringing 200,000 pounds of pot to the market every year, enough weed to affect the market price.
This is what we're talking about when we say high quality, done efficiently in a way that should be affordable for everybody. I mean, this is great quality cannabis, 100% sun grown in California. I mean, it's our belief that this is what the rest of the country thinks of when they think of cannabis, right? Tequila comes from Mexico, champagne comes from France, cannabis comes from California, and this is that sun-grown California goodness in a bottle.
Glass House is focused on driving down its costs of goods sold. Its first harvest in June 2022 cost $189 per pound. Most craft cannabis costs farmers $300 per pound to grow. Eventually, Farrar hopes he can push his company's costs down to $100 per pound.
I think 8 out of 10 brands in cannabis are going to come from California. That has the cultural ethos, it has the climate, it has the expertise, and people recognize it as where cannabis comes from. So when those walls come down, this greenhouse is not going to feel big anymore. It's going to be California cannabis on the shelves of all the dispensaries across the rest of the country.
California reported, a drop in legal sales this quarter.
Yep.
I know you guys are down profitability-wise from last quarter. What's happening in the market right now?
Yeah, I mean, so I think you've seen everybody have a really hard time. Too much taxes, too much regulation, not enough retail stores. You don't have to look back very far to see when things actually worked really well. Farmers were thriving, dispensary owners were thriving, consumers were getting their cannabis, and then we broke it with taxes and regulation. The stores are having a hard time making money, growers are having a hard time making money. There's really no one in the legal chain right now that's really prospering, at least the way that they could. Right? I mean, we think that we're building a company now that can survive in kind of any climate, and that's that's our goal as a company. We expect that we'll be able to get to cash flow positive early next year, but we're in many ways one of the lucky ones, right? We were one of the ones that could raise money. We were the ones that could get the licenses. You've got a lot of folks that are really struggling. That's the most broken thing, right? Is that they're saying, come join us, come follow the rules, come be in the licensed and legal market. But when people look down the path, very few of them can see the light to the end of the tunnel that makes sense.
As a consumer and a person that wants access to cannabis, as a person that wants people to stop going to jail for weed, bring on federal legalization. As a business owner in cannabis, a small Black, queer woman business owner in cannabis, it terrifies me.
Amber Center is the CEO and founder of Maker House, which manufactures infused cannabis products. And she's also the executive director of Supernova Women, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering people of color in the industry.
The rush of capital that will come in and will not go to people like me, it's going to wipe out my business. It's going to wipe out my network that I work with. It's going to wipe out small business, Black business, brown business, women-owned business, veteran-owned business, LGBTQ business. And the reason being is because we don't have access to capital. We're not big. We can't scale fast enough. We don't have the resources we need now. We certainly won't have the resources we need when legalization comes and all that money goes to the bigger players and we get left over and eventually left behind. It's not looking good for people like me, that look like me. Cannabis is a small business industry. It was built on small business, and small businesses thrive in craft cannabis. And that is what we need to be focusing on, is how can we provide for our families, and how can we contribute back to the community in a meaningful way and be upstanding citizens while doing all of this. It's not okay to sell people a pipe dream and tell them, you get into this, you're gonna become a billionaire and you're gonna be able to create generational wealth to take care of your family for generations to come. Like that's insane. And really, what other industry promises these things? None.
Legalization was supposed to be a boon to California's vibrant cannabis industry. But most small to medium-sized businesses feel as if they got bamboozled. Many have gone back to the black market, while many more have gone out of business.
I got into this business as a way to try to create generational wealth. Growing up in low-income housing with a single mother, that was my goal. That isn't possible right now.
California Street Cannabis is a small, independently owned retailer that specializes in selling Northern California weed products.
Our whole thing is about supporting the Northern California cannabis ecosystem. All right, so we carry a lot of Northern California brands, trying to support small farmers and other independent businesses, basically from like Monterey north. We carry other brands from all over the state, but typically they have some other qualities, such as being either minority owned or woman owned, or just something else that sort of differentiates them from necessarily like the big conglomerate ones.
The way that they're going about legalizing is causing a lot of complications, especially for equity applicants, the people who were supposed to, I guess, reap the benefits of being first in line for these licenses, right? And that's one through taxes, and then also limiting our ability in terms of what we can do with our businesses. I think everybody who went rec or went the legal way thought that things were going to be different. They thought that they would be rewarded for doing the right thing and helping build this legal market. But there's just there hasn't really been an upside. You
say, okay, you get to go first, but we haven't figured any of this out. We don't have enforcement to enforce, the illegal shop across the street. The taxation's too high. They're trying to figure out how to fix that. And all the while, the people, the independent operators, the businesses with less means are the ones that are getting hammered. As it all gets figured out, you're going to see so many of these people have gone out of business that were promised this change, to be a part of this new industry. The allure of doing this long term becomes less and less attractive when you're getting kicked in the teeth day in and day out.
In weed-friendly California, 2/3 of municipalities do not allow cannabis dispensaries. A combination of oversupply and too few retail stores means most of the cannabis grown in California every year has no place to go in the legal market.
Humboldt County native, grew up here growing cannabis for my whole life. This is a part of our family, our heritage, and our culture. It's like we're still trying to make it in the Stone Age of growing when we're going against these giant greenhouses with lights and all this stuff, So the climate affects us fully. Every year we're just growing a bunch of different strains, trying to figure out the right ones.
Ridgeline grows award-winning strains like Runts and Green Lantern.
For us, it costs a lot of money to grow a pound of weed. We're using really good fertilizer. We aren't doing cheap labor. There's so many things, and then we can't write off a lot of stuff because with all the the banking rules and stuff like that. We have basically the highest taxation, the crappiest banking you could ever imagine. It costs us a lot of money monthly just to have a bank account. There's just so much against us that if we don't sell our product, then we go under. And a lot of us are getting our product back. And that's pounds that each pound, let's say, costs us over $300 to make. And then at the end of the season, a little farm gets back, 200 pounds. That's, at least 20% of that's all your profit, let's just say. We get the short end of the whole deal. And a lot of these people will call us, hey, can we get a discount? Can we get a discount? Well, it's like, we're already losing money. And these dispensaries, somebody goes and buys my jar, it's like $45. When I'm gonna make $2 or $3, like what's happening here? Why don't we get any of that? Lots of good people, lots of good families, friends. They're freaking out. I have daily conversations with friends that are, some suicidal, but mostly just people that are really scared. They don't know how they're gonna feed their family. I've grown weed my whole life. This is all I really know how to do. I mean, this is it. We put everything into growing the best weed we can.
We dealt with law enforcement on a regular basis for the last 40 years. We all went through a lot to get to this point now, and it was a heck of a journey, and people really need to understand where a multi-billion-dollar industry is being created.
Huckleberry Hill Farms is one of California's smallest cultivators, producing around 700 pounds a year. But Casale practices the vanishing craft cannabis heritage of the Back to Earth movement.
This is a farm about celebrating women and celebrating life and really trying to explain to people what an Emerald Triangle small sun-grown craft farmer is. It's about regular families and regular people that didn't want to live in the cities, that wanted to create a lifestyle of their own. And now I'm permitted by Humboldt County and permitted by the state of California. And we have one of 2 or 3 different tourism licenses here on this farm, and we're able to share our life's work with those people.
So we do have 3 different phenotypes here of the riddles, and what we're looking for is structure, we're looking at scent.
Casale's strains caught the discerning eye of Willie Nelson, and the musician's cannabis company, Willie's Reserve, sells his bud in more than 30 dispensaries across California.
On average, if I had to guess the amount of cannabis that's being grown here right now, I would say between 70 and 80 pounds. Really thinking back to the reasons we originally even moved here was to to get out of the city, to get out of the, the daily traffic and that everything that went along with living in the cities. And maybe along that journey of living here, maybe we forgot for a very small moment on what legalization could look like. And it looks like now, from where I'm at, exactly what we were trying to get away from the very beginning, because it's been nothing easy to run this business, especially with the rules and regulations that are being created by a group of people that hopefully have good intentions, but really have no background or understanding what it takes to grow a cannabis plant. So it's been very challenging. There's predictions that over 50% of the small farmers will be gone, at least in the Emerald Triangle, after this year. The price is completely plummeted to rock bottom with the oversaturation of the market.
Look at how California is trying to position us as, one of the leading exports of cannabis in the world, right? Where are we exporting to if New York has their own weed, if Oklahoma has their own weed, Colorado has their own weed, Oregon has their own weed, Washington has their own weed? I mean, I think it will not take too long for people to realize like their local weed isn't California cannabis. But that's my fear, is that, yeah, we're ramping up for federal legalization, and then, but who are we exporting to?
For Casale, he has three choices: sell on the legal market at a loss, divert some of his harvest into the nation's thriving $47 billion black market, or destroy his crop. Having served 8 years in federal prison for cultivation, staying legal is more important than turning a profit. So Casale frequently turns to the wood chipper. Thanks to overregulation and overtaxation, the U.S. government has blown an easy revenue opportunity: legalized drugs. But it's not too late to save the $72 billion cannabis industry from the perils of prohibition.